Onwards and upwards. A statement coined in the early 1800s that didn't prove its worth until the late 20th century. It means to achieve success, through all barriers at a constant rate. Humanity proved it could do this through one of its largest and most dangerous obstacles, the Cold War. The Cold War was an international stalemate that locked the United States and the Soviet Union into a nuclear-charged arm wrestling match. It was a standoff between the ideals of democracy and communism that lasted for decades. Both sides used fear tactics, increased the size of the militaries, and of course, mass-produced nuclear weapons to intimidate the other side. However, nobody seemed to be getting any headway, at least until Russia got creative. In 1957, Russia launched Sputnik 1, and officially launched what we now call the space race. This was the first satellite ever launched in history, and it suddenly opened a door to a world just a year earlier humanity didn't even know existed. Space was this untangible object, accessible only through the imagination and telescopes. Now suddenly Russia, and Russia alone, held the keys to the final frontier. The United States could not stand for this, and as a result launched the Mercury program in 1958. This was America's way of catching up, but it was still late. Many of the early tests failed, and by the time America could say they even slightly advanced in aerospace technology, Russia had already placed the first man in space. It would take the promise of a young president and the use of the world's most powerful machine to launch America back into the forefront and past mediocrity.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
In 1962, a young John F. Kennedy promised an enthusiastic nation that by the decade's end, humanity would set foot on the moon in American boots. This promise gave life to the fledgling Apollo program, whose mission was to land man on the moon for the first time in human history. If there were any rocket out there capable enough of completing that mission, it was the Saturn V. The Saturn V rocket weighed 6.2 million pounds, was taller than the Statue of Liberty, and was the single most important factor in getting man to the moon. The rocket launches with a force of 34.5 million newtons. To put that number in perspective, think about it like this. Today's modern-day Ford Mustang has a total of 435 horsepower, making it pretty powerful. However, the Saturn V had about 11,744,000 horsepower, not only making the most powerful rocket of all time, but the most powerful machine ever created. It was the single most impressive piece of technology the world had ever offered up, and it had one mission: get man to the moon. The first Apollo missions were only tests that prepared NASA for the use of the highly experimental Saturn V rocket. The first use of the Saturn V was in Apollo 4, however this was a simple test of the rocket's capabilities. We didn't see use of the Saturn V in manned missions until Apollo 8. Apollo 8's goal was to take astronauts out of Earth's orbit and put them in the moons. The preceding 9 and 10 missions did the same, but they were also simple tests of the lunar module to ensure that it could land astronauts on the moon safely. All these tests came together with the launch of the Apollo 11 mission. Astronauts Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil Armstrong left Earth on July 16, 1969 to land themselves on the moon. It took them 3 days to insert themselves in the moon's orbit. On the fourth day, July 20th, the astronauts prepared themselves to embark to the lunar surface. Exactly at 3:14 p.m., the lunar module touched down on the moon, and at 9:56, Neil Armstrong took his and humanity's first step on a celestial body that wasn't Earth. Russia never did make it to the moon, and America remains, to this day, the only country that ever touched down there. Apollo went on to have 5 more missions and landed on the moon, furthering our knowledge of the moon, space, and our capabilities as a species. Humans completed the most admirable feat in the face of the Cold War, proving that we will never stop moving onwards and upwards.